Welcome back to the Do or Die Porsche podcast. My name is Duane Wick. I'm joined, as always, by Mr. JP, John Polnik. John, how are you tonight?
I'm trying to get my ice to clink. Are we welcoming everyone back, or are we welcoming them to a brand new edition?
Back to a brand new edition.
Don't ever say brand new edition in my presence again. We're welcoming them back.
I think we should do like
It sounds too much like a boy band.
I know, that's right. We've got enough dicks in this place that we could totally do the world's worst.
You said it. You said it.
Worst boy band ever.
We have Mental is here, as always. Mental's helping us out. And have you ever seen or been on Everyone Racers podcast?
I have.
I know. So have I. And you should go watch it. And you should like and subscribe to it.
Boom,
because Mental deserves it. He's a awesome person. You know, we also have Jason Alter in the house. One of our finest peanut gallery members. You know, we need like a special kind of plaque or like a name for Jason, because
we need
I feel like
stinger. What we need when we introduce the peanut gallery, we need a stinger, some kind of like video stinger that comes on. It introduces. Yeah, that might be good. Let's do that.
You know, for right now, it's Chef.
Mm-hmm.
Jason's running a close second to the most valuable peanut gallery MVP, most valuable peanut. But the most exciting thing that I want to talk about is our very special guest, which is a man that is very dear to my heart. He's a pillar of the Porsche community. I popped my P quite a bit there. A pillar of the Porsche community here in Las Vegas. A friend of mine, I count him as a friend, owner of the local Porsche shop, Carl's Place, aka 900 Series, and just a fine human being, Mr. Tony Mazzagatti. Tony, welcome to the Do or Die Porsche podcast, sir.
Thank you. I don't know if I appreciate or should have an introduction like that, but I do appreciate being here, finally hitting the big time.
You deserve it, quite honestly.
It's weird, though, right? Because before Duane got here, you were talking about how much you don't like him at all. Yet he likes you so much. That's awkward. Should I not have said that out loud? Is that my outside voice instead of inside voice?
He's such a generous man.
You just got down on my list now.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've got to be pretty far on that.
I run a fine line between... I run a fine line between, like, that annoying guy who... Sometimes I feel like I'm, hanging around a little bit too much because I love to go down to the 900 Series, and they have an attic full of treasures. It's like my nirvana. It's my heaven. It's all these vintage air-cooled Porsche parts, and Tony's done a great job of kind of like organizing them over the years, but he's got wings, he's got CDI boxes, he's got carbs, he's got suspension parts, everything up there. It's a cornucopia.
The big difference, though, about our place and your collection of parts is yours are all clean. And
that's part of the charm.
I've never worked on a car as clean as your cars.
Well, thank you, Tony.
I'm going to shamelessly do this because we've got this great shot of Tony right here. And just off his right arm is a picture of the Friends of Chef Club. And if I'm not mistaken, you bring that fine machine to the Cars und Cafe celebration that we do here in Las Vegas, downtown Las Vegas once a month.
We're going to get into the 904. Before I do you want to... I've been
we should probably, before we get too far into the show, we should probably have something to say about our good friends down at God & Porsche of Las Vegas and God & Classic. They support this show, so we ask that you do the same for our friends over there. If you kind of want to avoid all these, like our sister channel is Bid Nerds, right? Yeah. So we talked about the auctions on Bring a Trailer. Screw all that noise and just go right to God & Porsche and find the classic Porsche that you are looking for. Talk to Steve Deal over there. He'll get you set up. Okay. So 900 Series really is, it feels more like a club than it does a service shop, right?
It does, because you and I, sometimes I'll just run into you randomly there, and it's like, oh, hey, JP is here, and, it's kind of like that. We'll see friends of ours down there, and so yeah, it is kind of like a club. I know both of the service technicians, Ramon, of course.
Can we get a season's pass?
Well, we've actually been thinking about, instead of charging for working on the cars, to have a membership fee, because there should be. I mean, because there's sometimes we think it's a nonprofit organization, but
You need like
we
those
have
big
a lot of visitors.
leather sofas and cigars, and we could just come hang out in the shop. I would like that.
We do need a 900 series lounge. I think that does need to happen.
That works.
I want to go back to the very beginning, Tony.
Yeah.
I want to go back to 1967. Well, the beginning of your Porsche history. You bought.
Now, we're not. Hold on a second. We're not going to get super deep here. We're not going to talk about like where you met your wife or all that kind of stuff. We're going to keep this on Porsche, right?
Actually, I wanted to ask him some marriage tips
Like,
because
actually,
you've been married for like 50
no,
years.
we're not talking about that stuff. This is a car podcast.
No, this is part of Tony's like persona.
And welcome to another episode of Her or Die, where we talk about marriage.
So,
wasn't yesterday like Women's Day or something? International Women's Day. All right, keep this on Porsche.
So
yeah, but I got to say something about my wife though, related to Porsches. First of all, she would rather drive a 356 than absolutely anything, and she will not drive an automatic. Nice. So she's doing God's work. Opposite.
She's a keeper
that most guys have.
That is awesome.
I actually will run into Diana occasionally at the grocery store, and she's like, "Who are you?" Out of context, like friend of Tony's. Don't talk to me. I'm trying to buy apples. But take us back to 1967. You said earlier that you bought your first Porsche in 1967. So was it a 356 or a 911?
In 1967, I was just getting out of Air Force Tech School training in Illinois, and we drove back across the country in a 62 Beetle. And we were living in Cherry Hill, New Jersey, in a high-rise apartment. And I was commuting to a job just outside of New York City, near the George Washington Bridge. And I was commuting every day. It was 95 miles each way.
Oh, wow.
Which was and it was getting old. And I saw an ad in the Philadelphia Inquirer for a guy at the University of Pennsylvania that wanted to trade his 356 for a Volkswagen. Well, you never saw anybody drive across the Ben Franklin Bridge.
What's his number?
As fast as that, yeah. So I made him a deal, $500 in my Volkswagen. I got my first Porsche.
Oh, my goodness.
So it was a 1961 356 coupe. So I was commuting in that, and that started it. I've had probably, I think, 35 Porsches since then, about a dozen 356s.
Going from the Bug to a 356, is that a huge upgrade? Because I've actually never driven a 356, but I've driven a Bug, and I mean, I feel like they're kind of similar horsepower. I mean, one is obviously a hand built.
Yeah.
You know, the other one is more of a production.
Well, they're very similar because the layout and the handling is the same. Obviously, everything in the Porsche is far better. It handles better, stops better, it's faster. It's not a fast car, but everything is an improvement. It's like a high-end Volkswagen in effect, which is like, you know, a lot of people say, well, it's just a Porsche is just a Volkswagen. Well, it's better than being just like a Pinto.
Right.
Well, hold on a second. I mean, like that question, I've driven a bunch of like fake 356s, right? I've had these kits that are built on Volkswagens, and they're fun, and people go, oh yeah, those are better than the originals, right? And it's like, no, they're not, because the thing about the old 356s, they're kind of like the original unibody, right? It's a Volkswagen is a chassis with a body sitting on it. Whereas a 356 is a unibody chassis. It is one piece that some poor a-hole sat in a dirt room, dirt floored room, and banged out that metal. You've done that. You know, to try to compare a unibody type chassis to anything on it's like a pickup truck compared to any car.
I mean, it's a
right?
big difference.
Oh, the quality is dramatically different. Yeah. They're very solid. Feeling they give you a really good confidence when you drive them, especially hard. I've raced 356s, and they're just amazing what you can do with them. Now I take a whole different driving technique, you know, because there is the early swing axle ones in particular are really kind of tricky driving them. But once you get to know them, you can make them do absolute tricks. And I prefer an oversteering car rather than an understeering car. Oversteering is actually fast if you can control it, much faster than a understeering car.
Was there any kind of stigma on the streets of Philly driving a 356 in terms of like, I mean, you're talking only, you know.
No, quite frankly, there were more 356s on the road then. And back then I'd run into 356s all the time because they were everyday cars. I mean, I've had 5 Speedsters over the years, and like I had one I bought for $900, and you would see them all over the place. You don't see them on the road now because everybody, you know, I don't believe in garage queens. I believe in driving everything that I've got.
Here.
Yeah, I'll drink to that.
So it's like my, you know, my everyday beater is that 86 Carrera.
Yeah.
And I drive it every day in the summer, in the winter, in the rain, and put it on the track.
It does rain here in Las Vegas.
You drove it tonight?
Yeah.
So you went from the 356. Please tell me that you traded that for another Porsche, or you bought a house. I'll forgive the house, or a wedding ring. One of those 3.
Yes, and all of those, all of the above.
Okay. All right. Now we're talking.
In Englewood, New Jersey. My next car was a 56 Speedster, which was my everyday car. And we drove it in the snow and rain and everything. Again, I've got this great wife that I can get away with that kind of stuff with.
She allows it.
Yeah. I mean, she rode in the back seat. There is no back seat in a Speedster. She rode back there as we took a friend back from Englewood, New Jersey to Rhode Island.
Oh my goodness!
And she was in the back, curled up in the back of the Speedster.
That's why she learned to drive the stick.
That's why she's.
Then you had to ride in the back after that.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So when you did this start the love affair with Porsche? Because fast forward, you end up buying a, like a repair shop essentially for Porsche specific.
I never had anything to do with the automobile business until I bought this shop 18 years ago.
Right, because you had if I'm remembering, it's like a computer-aided drafting or something like that, or like a design background. Or?
Yeah, most recently, well, not most recently, but I was in the computer-aided design business. I was used to run the dealer sales for AutoCAD.
That's what it was. Yep. AutoCAD, yeah.
So I ran the North American dealer sales for them.
So how did you even find out that Carl's place was for sale? Like, how did that go down?
Well, I had just moved here, and this was 2002. I had moved here from the D.C. area.
Here being Las Vegas, everyone.
Here being Las Vegas, yep. And I had an 86 Carrera that I was driving. And I found Carl's place. Carl Young, was running the place. And he was servicing the car and doing work on it until I found out that I spent about 3 years here looking for a business to get into and just burning through money. And when I found out that Carl was interested in selling the place, that was perfect. So we made a deal. I bought the place. He always said that I was the only one stupid enough that he met to buy the place. So it worked out great. And he was a character. He was a real Porsche nut, too.
I'm going to throw out a scenario. I'm like a 35-year-old guy with a little money, and I want to I want to open my own shop. What is your advice after running Carl's place, a boutique Porsche auto shop, for almost 20 years now? What's your advice to me on how to make it work? How to get past that first year or even year 5? Or what does it take to...
My recommendation is don't. It's not. I mean, like a friend of mine, Rob King at Escargot in San Rafael, he said you're never going to make a lot of money in this business, and you don't really. I mean, you've got to be very, very specialized. You've got to be, a Rod Emery or a John Wilhoit or somebody that is so specialized and has a clientele that will pay what it takes to really make use of the talent that those guys have. The problem is it's still a small business, and a small business, I don't care if it's a soda stand or building airplanes. Small business is just tough. Yeah. So you've got to be committed to doing it. If you aren't committed and willing to put in the time and the effort to do it, just get a job and collect a paycheck and do the best you can with it.
The best way to end up with $1 million in small business, start with $2 million.
Yeah. Exactly. Yep.
You started out kind of as more of a desk job, like as a person probably working in an office or something. Am I right about that? Like, was there a transition point to where you wanted to work with your hands? Because I know you actually have like your own little area in the back of the shop where you build cars, essentially. I mean, you've got a couple projects back there, and you've built.
I've always worked with my hands. I mean, this is the good news. Bad news is, most people that just work with their hands never become rich and famous. But I've always worked with my hands. I was a finished carpenter and cabinet maker from the time I was 11 years old. My father was a master carpenter, and I've had construction companies and remodeled houses and whatnot. So I've never really been a wrench in the place, but I'll do special projects. I like to build tooling and fabricate strange things. So I get all the strange things to do in the shop.
Is that the best part of your day?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because, I mean, again, building something and seeing the end product is really satisfying. It's a lot more fun than dealing with stocks and paperwork and payrolls and numbers and things like that.
You were around when the 911 was a new thing.
Yep.
Walk us through that for us, for Johnny come lately over here. Like when the 911 came onto the scene, how old were you, first of all? I mean, if you don't mind me asking, and then did it resonate with you? Were you like, oh my God, I've been driving a 356. I mean, the 911 was out by then, by the time you got your 356, but it was only out for like a couple of years, right?
Yeah, because again, it was 67 when I got the first one.
So it would have been out for 2 years, which isn't a lot.
But I knew. For instance, I was working for an industrial designer in Englewood Cliffs, New Jersey, and he was a Porsche freak, and he had a beautiful 356 SC, and he got one of the first 911s. He got an orange 911S, and it was just spectacular. It was so different than a 911. But at the time...
From a 356.
Yeah, from a 356. But the problem was that at the time, the 356 people, the real Porsche people that grew up with all the Porsches and everything, they thought that the 911 was going to destroy the company, and it was sacrilegious. I mean,
We've heard that before,
like
haven't we?
Yeah, it was like... I mean, when the Cayenne came out, it was the same thing. Everybody said, oh, it's a sports
an abomination.
Company. It's not a, Carl Jung, the guy that I bought the shop from, said, I will never work on one of those trucks. Well, that's,
What were the objections to the 911?
It wasn't a 356.
That's it.
It's got two extra cylinders.
It's got two.
Why would you do that?
Yeah, what do you need two more cylinders for, And you could even get air conditioning in them. Although there were some 356s that were dealer-installed factory air conditioners. I had one of those, too. That was kind of fun.
What was the first 911 that you bought?
I think it was a 66. In fact, it was a 911S. I got it in New York.
Man.
Used.
Still got it?
And it
sell it?
It was just an old Porsche. I mean, it wasn't a big deal. And an S was no different than, it had more horsepower and everything, but just not a big deal. Not like now.
Yeah.
911S is, the Holy Grail, the early ones. All these cars, these were, again, I had a Concours Speedster that I paid $3,800 for.
Oh, man.
I've got old.
Well, hold on a second. Yeah. In what year?
That was earlier than 1970.
Well, we all these numbers
they're
get
relative.
thrown around.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be honest here. My parents bought their first house on a lake for $14,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So $4,000 for a car is a lot of money.
My parents bought a house on a hill in Pasadena for $17,000.
Right. Yeah. There you go.
Yeah. My first house, in Bergen County, New Jersey, which is like Marin County in California, a very expensive area. We paid, now of course the house was 50 years old when we bought it. It was a neat little 2-bedroom house. We paid $17,000 for it. and we sold it for $22,000 5 years later. We made a killing on that house.
Right.
You built a 904.
Yeah.
Why?
Oh wow, that's a big. Hold on, wait.
Yeah.
Whoa. Hold on.
I know, but I want to get to this.
Let's get a commercial break or something like that.
How do you
that
say
is just
segue?
a massive. It's like, no, we're not going to like try to do any transition. We're just going to go right to a completely different car.
It was burning a hole in my brain. I needed to know.
Well, on that note, stick around. We'll be right back, and we're going to talk about Tony's 904. Let's tease the lead here. All right. Hey guys, I gotta tell you about our friends Godden Porsche of Las Vegas and Godden Classic. If you're looking for a new Porsche or a classic, you gotta call our friend Steve at Godden, this guy.
1989 linen gray metallic G50 cab.
Is that gonna be for sale?
It is gonna be for sale. The car only has 65,000 miles.
Save yourself the hassle of screwing around with all the auctions like we always talk about and just talk to Steve. He'll find you the classic Porsche you're looking for. Godden Porsche of Las Vegas. If you don't subscribe to Bid Nerds on YouTube right now, I'm going to shoot this 997. If you said, wait, that's a 996, you're a nerd. So subscribe to the new YouTube channel, Bid Nerds. Get those nerds! And welcome back to Dur or Die. Thanks for sticking around, everyone. All right, well, we are in studio with our good friend Tony Mazzagatti from 900 Series. Also, we didn't mention that he happens to be the star of the 900 Series television program.
I wanted to bring that up. Yeah.
On MAVTV. Currently, you can see all episodes of seasons 1 and 2. Of that television show. Before the break, we were talking about Tony's history and the cars that he's had because he has been around Porsche for longer than we have. Let's put it that way. Also, look, I know that you wanted to talk about a really cool car, the car that's over his shoulder, that 904 there. But I think he had Tony, you wanted to fill in a couple of gaps before we got to that. From back in the 60s, you were telling us before we started the show about sleeping in your Triumph, and you weren't always a productive member of society. You were pretty much homeless, the way I'm taking this. You were kind of a
hassled by the cops.
I was weekend homeless.
Weekend homeless. All right.
That's the best kind of homeless.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone in New Jersey, in the 60s and 70s. I mean, tell us about New Jersey in the 70s.
I'm from Philadelphia.
The show is now black and white.
Oh, okay.
So he's got a knife on him right now, just so you know.
I'm not armed today. No, I lived in Philadelphia, so when I was in high school, we used to go to the South Jersey shore all the time. And I'd go down there now this is a long time ago. I mean, gas was 27 cents a gallon. I'd go in my TR3, which was my first car that I owned, and go down to the shore. Didn't have any place to stay. Sometimes I'd go out to the 9th Street Bridge and pull the zipper up on the tonneau cover and sleep in the car. And you couldn't sleep on the beach until 6 o'clock in the morning. You couldn't sleep overnight on the beach. There was a lot of us bums, that were down there, and the police would come up. And they'd unzip the tonneau cover and reach in and look in and say, okay, it's 6 o'clock, time to go onto the beach.
It was the long arm of the law.
It was a different time.
They just clobber you over the head.
They
would reach around for a while, kind of feeling, what's going on.
Now later on, when I had
with a billy club,
I guess it was my first Speedster. And again, we were living in northern New Jersey at the time. And I had another friend.
In a house, not a TRC.
In a house, a $17,000 house.
Upgrade.
And I had another friend that I had gone to college with, and turned out that he lived like 10 houses down the street from me, and he had a Speedster also. So he and I and our wives, we got into 2 Speedsters and went down to, it was actually not Summers Point, Ocean City, New Jersey. And Ocean City was a dry city. It was a very family-oriented place, but we all went down there like beach bums.
And I'm for our younger viewers, dry means you can't get alcohol there.
You can't buy it.
It's hell on earth.
Yep.
If you're not from the South, you've probably never experienced it.
No, totally
horrible.
Dry. You do not buy alcohol. But you go right over the 9th Street Bridge, and there was a place called Summers Point that was nothing but clubs. And you would go there, and you'd go from club to club to club until 3 o'clock in the morning. They finally closed down, and then you went home. Well, we went there one time, and we had our 2 Speedsters because you only carry 2 people in the car, and we went and parked in front of this place, or pulled up in front of this place, and the valet comes out, and again, a Speedster was just a car then, so we gave the cars to the valet. Went inside, came back out 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, something like that, and there's no valet. It turns out there was no valet.
Oh,
they would take the cars. I mean, these guys were good. They'd open the door for your wife and everything, you know, and you gave them a tip. There was no charge. You just gave them whatever you gave them. And it turned out that they would just take the cars up the street and park them on people's lawns and around the corner and whatever.
It was a real gas.
Yeah, my car was on somebody's lawn, so I got it back. My friend's car got towed away. So here we are at 3 o'clock in the morning at this tow place, you know, with the cyclone fence and barbed wire and the junkyard dog trying to say, hey, I want my car back. They say, no way, it's going to cost you to get it back. So we got it back. But yeah, be careful when you valet your car. Make sure there really is a valet.
They brought it out with a forklift.
Yeah.
What movie did that happen in? That was, I feel like that was
Ferris Bueller.
Ferris Bueller. Thank you. No, well,
they just take it first.
No, that's not the movie.
No.
No. They weren't valets that weren't valets. Those guys were the parking garage.
Yeah, that was
an actual parking garage. But there was a movie where people was that one of the Porsche movies? It happened in
one of the Bond movies where like a guy tosses Bond.
Was that a No Man's Land? Was that one of the ways that they stole Porsches?
You might also be thinking of the Father of the Bride with Steve Martin, where him and the 2 12-year-old kids have to park everything from the.
No, I'm talking about
Casino Royale. The guy tosses him the keys. Yeah. He thinks he's the valet, and Bond takes the car and creates a diversion and crashes it into another car.
Yes.
Throws the keys.
There's also a movie from the 90s. I can't remember what it's called, but like Tay Diggs or something like that's in it. It's not Fast and the Furious, but some a-hole parks his Ferrari 355 in front of the strip club and tosses the keys to the black guy. Is like, and assumes that he's the valet, and then the black guy's like, okay, and he takes the car and takes off. What movie was that? Anybody? Anyone? No. Okay, you're pointing at something.
I'm sorry. I was trying to be slick. You need to tend to your camera. I got colored bars.
On his?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, and that's I don't have a timing. Yeah, don't keep talking. That's at 28 that happens, JP. Good. Yes.
I don't need to push a button. We got no.
Nope. We're back being normal.
Next time I gotta try to remember to do that in the break.
All right, so I'm gonna start on Duane, and then I'm gonna give you a 3, 2, 1, and just keep talking about that 90s movie.
Okay.
3, 2.
Yeah, I don't recall that 90s movie.
I remember there was a moment in there where they were trying to put a dead guy in the back of a Miata. And the one guy's like, dude, it's a Miata. You can't put a dead guy in the back. There's no room in there.
Mental could speak to that. Yeah, have you had a dead body in your Miata yet? Mental?
No comment.
Right.
How about in Atomic Blonde when they put the dead guy in the front of a 964?
He's just unconscious because he's dropping him off at the Russian embassy.
Well, he would definitely be dead if he were stuffed in the front of a 964. All right, so Duane, this is how you do a segue.
Okay, lay it on me, buddy.
Much like the front of that 964 having to be inside of the trunk of a 911 would be about as uncomfortable as riding in
or just getting in
Tony Mazzagatti's 904 replica. That car does not feel like a place that a human being is supposed to be inside.
Yeah.
Tony, tell me about your 904 replica.
Before we get to that, I have a video.
Yeah.
Of Duane over here.
It's true.
Getting in
I like that you adopted
he tried to blackmail.
Pronunciation of his
He tried to blackmail me.
Yeah, he is now Duane for everybody.
Yeah, and I remember distinctly when you would put your foot on the door sill, your kneecap would hit the top of the window there.
There's not a lot of room in a 904, it turns out.
It's like it's like an episode of That's Incredible.
Yeah.
For again the young kids. Not like anybody young watches this show.
What show is that?
You don't remember? That's
no, I know. I love That's Incredible.
Some guy would origami himself.
Do you remember
into a little
Real People?
Cube, yes.
With Skip?
That was like the knockoff, right?
Yeah.
Were they like back to back on when they
I think they might have been back to back.
It's like Monday nights at 8 o'clock on ABC, and stick around for real people after.
The 904 though, I was testing it because I want to buy it from Tony one day.
Not going to happen because I'm inheriting it.
Oh, is that true?
So
I'll fight you.
Get on the list.
I'll fight you.
He's driven it.
He's driven it.
I've actually driven it,
and I'm very jealous of that fact, but I understand it because I actually physically couldn't drive it safely. What's it like to? Well, Tony, first of all,
let's talk about the car. Yeah,
let's go back. You built a 904, basically.
Yeah, not totally from scratch because I bought the body on a tube frame.
Okay.
And everything else had to be fabricated.
But they ship that to you on a truck or something, right?
Yeah.
Like one day,
it was
ding
on a
dong.
dolly. Yep.
Okay. Here's my 904. It's a tube frame and a body, and then you add every single other component, suspension.
Everything. Everything.
Right. Electrical, fuel, engine.
Yep. And I made it out of it's a Frankenstein underneath. I made the outside to be absolutely like a real one. I mean, it's identical. And you have to really know the details of a 904 to know that it's not real, until you get up close and look at some of the details inside. But it's made of a bunch of spare parts that I had around from, the upstairs, from the attic, from the belfry.
That attic is you could build a 904 from stuff that's up there.
So it's got a 914 transaxle in it.
Oh, right, because it's got the mid-engine.
Yeah, it's a mid-engine car. The engine came when I was ready to put an engine in it. I had just finished doing a top-end rebuild on my 82 911 SC race car, and I had bent some valves on the track at COTA in Austin. So I looked at it and said, wait a minute, instead of putting it back in the SC, this would be a great engine to throw in the 904.
Upgrade.
So that's the engine. So it's a
chassis upgrade.
It's a 3.2, pretty stock, except that it just has a crank fire ignition and PMO carburetors. So it's got about 250 horsepower, but the car only weighs 1,700 pounds.
Right.
So it's full stop.
Yes.
1,750 pounds.
Yeah.
So it's got
that's incredible.
It's essentially the power to weight ratio of a GT3 RS.
Yeah.
Without the sophistication of a GT3 RS. So it is an absolute beast. I mean,
and you actually drive that car quite a bit. Like you've taken it to many of the shows that we go to.
I take it to lunch.
Do you really?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, because I keep it at the shop. It's at home right now, but I keep it at the shop, and there are a lot of places that guys expect me to pull up with.
Here comes Tony.
God bless you, sir.
Flying saucer.
No, I don't believe in garage queens again. I don't care what it is.
Has it been? There was a break-in period where once you kind of assembled it, right? Like you had to go out, you had to make sure it was seaworthy. How long was that process, or what was kind of like the biggest issue that you had with the car before you could really?
It's like a race car. It's ongoing. You never finish them. The biggest thing that I left, I made a Rube Goldberg temporary exhaust system on it, and it's just hanging under the car. It has about 3 inches, 2.5 inches of ground clearance on the car. So I have to plan where I go with it. Like I can't go to the post office.
Don't go on the backside of Angeles Crest Highway. Just FYI.
Yeah. So how long ago did you build that thing, Tony?
It wasn't that long ago.
No, it was only about maybe 3 years.
Okay. Yeah,
4 years. I don't know.
So you've got 250 something horsepower in a fiberglass car. Now, this car, like a lot of people think about this car and they're like, oh, it's fiberglass, so it's like a 356 replica or something like that. No, this is not. I mean, the real 904s,
exactly.
A lot of people don't realize were fiberglass.
It was the first fiberglass car that Porsche ever made.
Yeah.
And it was actually, the body was built by an aircraft company.
Is that the famous picture of the two guys holding the tube chassis that was like, was it filled with nitrous oxide? What was it?
No. You're thinking of the 917.
The 917, I was thinking
the
of that.
917, they actually,
filled it with helium.
They didn't really fill it except for testing purposes to see if all the welds
the cracks
were good. Yeah, if there were any welds or cracks, bad welds or cracks in it. But
gotcha.
rumor has it that it was filled with some material.
Exotic,
and
exotic gases.
There are no trim pieces inside. There are no. There's
It's a
no
bare bones
padding.
race car.
There's no anything. It's just you see the tube frame. Yeah. There's oil cooling lines. There's, like I said, it does not feel like a thing that a person is supposed to be inside.
Have you driven?
But it is awesome.
Have you driven it in anger? Like,
I've only had it on a track one time.
Okay.
And it was this terrible track down here. I won't even say where it is. And it's not Spring Mountain. That's a great track. But the problem is that I have some temporary tires on it, and they're getting a little old and hard.
They're only like 6-inch wheels, right? I mean, they're fairly narrow.
They're actually because the wheels look like the actual real wheels on a 904.
Like Steelies.
They're actually 5. Yeah, they're Steelies. They're 5 collapsible spares from an SC, from a 911 SC. It's the same looking wheel.
Right.
So I just took the inflatable or collapsible tire off of it and put some tires on
Yeah,
there.
and tell everyone how old the tires on that thing are.
Well, they're probably about 6 years old now.
Yeah,
we're starting a GoFundMe.
No,
for
I've seen them.
Tires.
They're like from 2004 or something like that.
It doesn't have a lot of traction, unfortunately, besides the engine and everything. Because it'll just spin
They're
the wheels.
roller skate wheels,
Yeah.
Tony. What are we talking about here?
To be fair, tires are really expensive right
That's
now
all the real
and
ones
hard to
had.
get.
The biggest wheel you can get on a real 904 is 7 inches wide.
Right. But you can get some modern rubber on there for crying out loud.
It wouldn't look right.
Yeah.
It wouldn't look right.
But it's so much fun. Just this, it just spins the wheels through first, second, and third, and it'll keep doing that.
There is a passenger
so crazy in that thing.
seat, right?
Yeah.
Is it like the traditional race car passenger seat where it's like
it's
piece of cardboard?
No, it's the same seat as the driver's seat.
Okay.
So it's terribly uncomfortable. It's
Sure.
designed to be that way. It keeps the riffraff out.
You were involved in the racing scene with PCA.
Yeah.
Tell us about like what is that part of PCA mean to you? Like what is the track part of being a Porsche owner? Why is that important? Or
well, I've done autocrossing, time trials, racing, everything since 1962. So PCA to me, especially when I got into PCA club racing, that's what I enjoy most about the Porsche Club.
Mm-hmm.
And I've raced also with NASA and some other places. A bunch of us have done a lot of Lemons racing also, which is a lot.
Mental's a big Lemons guy.
Oh,
you guys need to have a little
so much fun.
Everyone racers.
I've been Lemons racing since 2007. I've even been a judge. And if you're watching this and you want to go racing for cheap, find a team, go do it. It's a great filter for all the douchebaggery. You get all the competition, none of the D-bag.
Yeah.
I have to say right now.
Yeah.
No, what?
How'd you get in?
Oh, that was low.
Come on, you just
that
laid
was
it
easy
out
though.
there.
It was a softball. It was like
I mean, what the hell?
slow pitch.
No.
That was a slow pitch.
They are not sponsoring this program. They don't sponsor any of us, and there's only 2 of us in there's ever done it. But you go to 24 hours, that's the number 24hoursoflemons.com. They'll walk you through the entire process.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Because racing just shouldn't be for rich idiots. It's for all idiots.
Yep, absolutely. and I've determined that it's not, you're supposed to have a $500 car, not counting safety equipment, roll cages and all that kind of stuff. They are very safety conscious, as strict as any racing organization that I've been in. But I've determined that the car doesn't have to be a $500 car. It has to look like a $500 car.
Now, you've been racing for a long time, like Duane says, but your last race, now that was like last summer, right? Or was it last summer?
Well, actually, it's almost a year now.
Yeah. I mean, you're not 22. You're still in your late 20s or something like that. Yeah. What did they say when you said you wanted to enter that race? They had some requirements, yeah?
If you can pass the physical, and they're very strict, especially after you get a certain age.
I don't think I
wait,
can pass
is this for
physical.
club racing or is this for?
Well, recently I've been NASA racing.
Okay.
Wait,
what's NASA?
NASA is
National Aeronautic and Space Administration.
National Autosport Association.
Okay. Gotcha.
Space shuttle drag
space
race.
shuttles.
I needed to clarify that.
Yeah.
if I tell you, I have to kill you.
That's the CIA, different.
Yeah. But no, I was racing a Spec 944. Great guys. There's another guy in his mid 70s. I call him the Kid, and was racing this. Yeah, we were at the Auto Club Speedway in Fontana, California, and it's a combination of part of the oval and the infield road course. And unfortunately, it was the last race on Sunday, the last lap, and I'm fighting with this guy and got over this berm a little too much and shot me across the track onto the grass, doing 100 miles an hour, and you hit the grass, forget it. Hit the wall, went over the top of the wall, and airborne for about 50 feet, and just destroyed the car. So I don't have that 944. I'm just doing my part to make 944s more desirable and rare.
There's one less 944 in the world.
You only broke like one bone, right? Yeah.
Well, it's unusual to get hurt in a race car anymore because you've got so much stuff from Hans devices to you name it. But somewhere along the line, I must have flung my, because you let go of when you see the wall coming, you let go of the steering wheel. But I must have flung my hand out and broke my wrist.
Well, you'll have to come on tomorrow's podcast that we film in here, Endotopic, when we bring a bunch of surgeons in here. All right, well, there it is, you guys. If you want to learn more about Tony and his escapades, you can check out the 900 series on MAVTV. Are there some episodes on YouTube right now?
There are some on Tubi and
MAVTV.
Prime Video.
Yeah, that's what I just said. MAVTV, MAV.
Prime
right?
Video, yeah.
Prime Video,
you can get to it through Roku.
And there's a website, right? 900 series, and that can show you it. So
the 900 series.
Yeah, so check out the 900series.com, and you can find out more about that. Make sure you check out Mental's
Lemons Racing.
Lemons Racing
No, well,
YouTube
not just
channel.
Lemons. We do all the entry level stuff. I think I was at that race. I was in Spec E46.
Oh yeah, we run with the
Holy smokes!
We
Small
have
world.
multiple. Yeah, we have multiple classes at the same time.
Jason Adine, thanks for joining us there.
Yeah,
he's he's like Jason Alter. We mess with him all the time. He's making an appearance. All right, Duane, we're done, buddy. Yeah. You want to say anything before we get out of here?
No, I just want to thank Tony for coming out, hanging out with us, being the wonderful person that he is, and thank him for being an awesome person, part of the community. I wanted to talk more about his involvement in PCA, but we'll have to save that for another night.
Another night. Yep. All right. Well, there it is. Thanks for hanging out, guys. See you on the next episode of Do or Die.